Well, my editing skills are crap, but can the same thing be said about Predestination? Stick around and find out. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Very minimalistic, isn't it? Sounds a little bit like John Carpenter's The Thing. And there's a little bit of a relationship, actually, between that and this movie. I'll get around to it in a second. Hi, I'm Peter Franson from ChristianGeekCentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions, here with an uncut review of Predestination. Now, I'm going to read you, actually, my own kind of synopsis that I started with IMDb's synopsis, and then I was like, I'm going to describe this differently. So I'll say it's about a time-traveling temporal agent. On his final assignment, he's after the one criminal that has eluded him throughout time. And to catch this criminal, he'll need to reason with and solicit the help of a unique individual with both a past and a future connected to the case. I think I saw the trailer for this a while ago, and it looked more like this kind of like a... Not necessarily like a sci-fi action movie, but like at least a sci-fi kind of suspense type movie, and it's really not that. This is not a sci-fi action flick. It's not flashy at all. It's certainly not big budget. This has I think it got a limited theatrical release. I'm not even sure. I watched it using the Amazon Instant Video rental service. So I paid like $7 to rent this. About the same that I would pay for a ticket at the theater, and I would love it if bigger and bigger movies would do this more and more with their new release movies. I'm sure it'll never happen. Even if I had to pay 4 times as much to watch a movie instantly streamed at home, I think I would do that. I think I would find a way to get enough people together to split the cost so that at least I know that, if people are going to be yapping in the room, there are people I know and I can say, hey, can you shut up? I'm trying to watch the movie. Or at least I can say, oh, you know what? I missed that. Let's rewind it for a minute if I don't feel the freedom to tell them to shut up. But anyway, so I really, enjoyed that experience, but that's kind of a side thing. This movie has lots of people sitting down and talking with flashbacks of very ordinary events being recounted. The story is both the strongest and the weakest point. Now, you might think from what I just said that, for a sci-fi flick, it sounds pretty standard, sounds pretty pedestrian and mundane. Anything but. If you think about a movie like, say, Primer, which is about time travel, doesn't have flashy effects, just has these boxes that people climb in and out of and stuff like that, but it's still this crazy, crazy sci-fi time travel movie. The same kind of thing is very much the case here. There are some crazy time travel concepts going on in this movie, despite the fact that there's a lack of visual effects, except in a few cases. There are fascinating character timelines to keep track of in this movie, and fascinating time travel concepts. Though, as always with time travel movies, you're going to have to throw logic out at least a few select places. Now, thankfully, it's not. I felt like logic was not thrown out the window in this movie as much as, say, in Looper, which really, in my experience of that, was a little bit frustrated at times because I felt like there was some logical inconsistencies just within the movie itself. But I mean, when you're dealing with time travel as a concept and people traveling through time, I think that you can have a story that's logical and consistent with itself, but it just kind of, it handles logic imperfectly at times, just so that you can have people traveling through time. And that's really the case with this movie. I felt like beyond that, there was just kind of there's the issues of paradox and how are you going to treat paradox in fiction, So anyway, very interesting stuff. The person that Ethan Hawke's character, Ethan Hawke plays the temporal agent. The character that he's trying to get help from has a very, very interesting story to tell, and it's one of the first things that character tells Ethan Hawke, and then you get to know this character and see their story play out. Very interesting stuff. Unfortunately, that story is very predictable, as is the movie in many ways. You might have the whole thing figured out in the first 2 minutes of the movie, or before the credits roll. If you read the tagline on the promo art, I mean, now the promo art's not going to give away the whole story, but the promo, the tagline on the promo art, just in the little online store, that they'll use for the DVD cover someday or something. It's got a little tagline on it. If you can avoid reading that, I think that would only increase your enjoyment of the movie, because I think it really kind of puts you in a certain mindset to be able to see pretty easily where this movie is going, what's going to happen, and stuff like that. So avoid that tagline if you can, because there's going to be plenty of things going on in the movie that already show way too much of the story's hand. They reveal way too much in this movie. I was thinking to myself, geez, well, since this is kind of an indie movie, I wish they would have gone a little bit more, like obscured in what was going on. Not as obscured as Primer. I've seen that movie 3 times now, and even with the help of some, some blog posts and stuff online where people dissected it and tried to explain it all, I was like, okay, I'm not smart enough for this movie. I definitely felt too smart for this movie, and I wish that wouldn't have been the case. But that being said, there were still enough questions for me to want to see it all play out, and I was no less fascinated for being ahead of the movie the entire time. I was just like, well, I know where this is going, but I still really was just riveted and wanting to see, how is this exactly going to play out? How are the characters going to react as this information is revealed? And it was still very interesting the whole time. There are rarely any wasted moments or shots in this movie, with the exception of a brief sex scene that had side view nudity. It would only lasted about 5 to 8 seconds, which was broken up into 2 different shots. But they didn't need that at all for what they were trying to get across about what was going on with the character and in the scene. And then there's another shot of non-sexual, unflattering profile male nudity that I could argue is saying that helps the movie. But the other one I didn't feel helped at all. It was just there for for Hollywood reasons, to put some skin on the screen. Okay, so the cast. Ethan Hawke, I mentioned, he plays the temporal agent. He's not stretched in this movie, but he brings nice variety. He's easy to sympathize with. Ethan Hawke is just kind of a great go-to actor, especially for movies like this one that are maybe a little bit lower budget, but they're playing around with some interesting ideas and interesting characters. Sarah Snook, or Snook, I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name. She is another very major character in this movie, and a virtual unknown to me, very endearing at times, and always interesting to watch. I was really happy with the cast and their performances in this. The stunts and visuals, infrequent but great, and put to good use. They weren't trying to do stuff that their budget and concept wouldn't allow for. Their time travel effects, similar to Looper. If I remember correctly, in Looper, when people traveled, from one time to another, blink, it was just a blink, and they had like a cool sound effect that went along with it. In this one, there's a blink and a sound effect, and then there's also like this sense of displacement where the air, rushes around them as they appear and disappear, or glass shatters around them, So there's definitely these cool kind of practical effects that go along with time travel, even though the visual effects itself there is really non-existent. It is just a quick edit. They're blinking in and out. But I still really enjoyed it. And in some ways, in maybe like a Christopher Nolan kind of way, I think that's how Christopher Nolan would do time travel. He wouldn't use any like cool lasers and stuff like that. And every now and then, despite me loving a visual feast, every now and then that works for me. And especially in a movie like this, it really worked well. They also had some good makeup and CG combinations of effects to pull off some body effects, I'll just put it that way. I really enjoyed this movie. Now, on the topic of relevance, is there anything of philosophical or spiritual or moral value or significance that might trigger some worthwhile thought or conversation during or after watching this movie? Well, there are some sexual topical issues. I thought during the first 15 minutes, I was like, oh, is this kind of like a social agenda piece? Is that what this is going to turn into? But that actually vanished very quickly. They're just playing with some untapped concepts that are related to human sexuality, and they do it to fascinating effect. It's not like a highly sexualized movie. It's not like this big thing that's all about sex and stuff like that. But human sexuality does play a significant role in the story as it plays out. There are possibly some themes of free will versus predestination that might come in. You know, how do we have choice? You know, what is the nature of choice? You know, is there such a thing as fate, and what is the nature of fate? You know, those kinds of things. But really, I think those themes are greatly overshadowed by just the story and concepts themselves that are being presented. So now, in summary, if I were talking to myself about this movie, I would say, oh, hey, Peter, there's this really cool movie called Predestination. You should check out. Wait for Redbox when it's, you know, you can get it for like $1.50 or $2. Don't pay the full Amazon price of, you know, $7 or $8 right now to rent it. Oh crap! I had it sitting on my lap. And I was so going to, like, when the time came, I was gonna be like, didn't forget this time, booyaka! All right. So Redbox it, you know, or when you can get it for $1 or $2, or when it's on, if you've got a Netflix subscription, then wait till it's on Netflix and check it out that way. But it's definitely worth checking out, even if you're maybe doing something else, dinking around on your computer or something like that, or maybe playing a video game, you know, while you're watching it. It's still definitely very interesting, and so I would recommend it. Final score, I give it a quality of 8.0 out of 10, and a relevant score, 6.5 out of 10. It's rated R for violence, some sexuality, nudity, and language. Predestination, definitely, in my opinion, worth checking out. All right, well, please do like, share, and subscribe. And then I hope you'll go to this place, ChristianGeekCentral.com, to hang out with some other geeks as we continue to seek the truth.